Good morning, I'm Angelo Castro III.
I'm Angela, and we are the Castros.
We bring you the news.
And the views that make you think.
Sometimes we agree.
Sometimes we don't.
This is News and Views.
And here are today's headlines.
Severe tropical storm Opong accelerates while moving west-northwestward and is now approaching Romblon according to Pag-asa.
Bombshell allegations shake the Senate as several high-ranking politicians are implicated in a multi-billion peso kickback scheme linked to flood control projects.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is expected to freeze even more accounts linked to the controversial flood control funds.
Filipina tennis ace Alex Iyala defeats Japan's Mei Yamaguchi to advance to the quarterfinals of the Jingshan Open.
First in the news, Pag-asa continues to monitor severe tropical storm Opong as it accelerated while moving westward. To update us on the latest, we have Pag-asa weather specialist Lian Loreto. Welcome back, Lian.
Good morning po, Miss Angela and Sir Angelo, at sa lahat po ng ating mga taga-subaybay. Ito nga pong si severe tropical storm Opong ay kanina alas 8 ng umaga sa coastal waters ng San Fernando, Romblon. Naglandfall nga po ito sa pang-apat na beses sa San Fernando noong 8:10 a.m. At ngayon napapanatili niya po ang kanyang kilos at kanyang lakas na hangin na aabot po sa 110 kilometers per hour at pagbugso na aabot sa 150 kilometers per hour. Sa ngayon kumikilos po ito pa west-northwestward at nag-accelerate nga po o mas bumilis sa kilos na 30 kilometers per hour. Kaya't ngayon po nakataas pa rin po ang wind signal number 3 dito po sa may Sorsogon, Masbate, kabilang ng Ticao at Burias Islands sa Albay, sa western and southern portions ng Camarines Sur, southern portion ng Quezon, Marinduque, Romblon, Oriental Mindoro, Occidental Mindoro, kabilang ang Lubang Islands, Batangas sa southern portion ng Laguna, western portion din po ng Northern Samar, western portion ng Samar, ang extreme northern portion ng Biliran, northwestern portion ng Capiz, sa northern portion ng Aklan, at dito rin po sa may Kaluya Island. Sabihin nito, ang hangin na mararanasan nila ay 89 to 117 kilometers per hour. Sa loob po yan ng 18 hours. Samantala, wind signal number 2 naman po ang nakataas sa may Catanduanes, sa nalalabing bahagi din po ng Camarines Sur, Camarines Norte at ng Quezon, sa nalalabing bahagi din po ng Laguna, Rizal, Cavite, Metro Manila, Bulacan, Pampanga, Bataan, southern portion ng Zambales at Calamian Islands, pati na rin sa nalalabing bahagi ng Northern Samar, northern portion ng Eastern Samar, northern and central portions ng Samar, nalalabing bahagi ng Biliran, northern portion ng Leyte, Cebu, pati na rin sa may Negros Occidental, Iloilo, nalalabing bahagi ng Capiz, Aklan at sa may northwestern portion ng Antique. 62 to 88 kilometers per hour naman po na mga hangin ang kanilang mararanasan sa mga nabanggit na lugar sa loob naman po ng 24 oras. Wind signal number 1 naman po ang nakataas sa may Quirino, central and southern portions ng Nueva Vizcaya, central and southern portions ng Benguet, at La Union, Pangasinan, sa may Aurora, Nueva Ecija, Tarlac, sa nalalabing bahagi ng Zambales, Puyo Islands at sa may northern portion din po ng mainland Palawan. Dito rin po sa may nalalabing bahagi ng Eastern Visayas, pati na rin sa Southern Leyte, Eastern and Central portions ng Bohol, Central portion ng Cebu, Northern portion ng Negros Oriental, pati na rin sa Northern and Central portions ng Negros Occidental, Central portion ng Iloilo at Antique, at sa may Dinagat Island, Surigao del Norte, kabilang po ang Siargao at Bukas Grande Island. Sila po ay nasa wind signal number 1 pa rin na makakaranas ng 39 to 61 kilometers per hour na mga bugso ng hangin. At ito nga pong ating track ng bagyong Opong ay mas nag-southward po or yung shift niya ay nag-southward po at hindi na nga po direktang makaka-hit dito sa Metro Manila. Habang dito naman po sa may Romblon, Marinduque at sa may Mindoro provinces, posible pa rin po na si severe tropical storm Opong ay maglandfall. Mababa naman po yung tsansa na mag-re-intensify pa ito o mas lumakas pa habang binabaybay ang mga nasabing lalawigan Ngunit mag-emerge po ito no dito sa may West Philippine Sea at posible pang mas lumakas habang binabaybay ang mga waters dito sa may West Philippine Sea. Posible pa rin po siyang maging typhoon. Bukas nga po, inaasahan natin na makakalabas na ito ng ating Philippine Area of Responsibility at halos buong bansa po natin ay makakaranas ng mas improving weather conditions. Aside po doon, nakataas naman po ang gale warning natin no, sa may southern and the eastern portions ng Bicol region, pati na rin sa Eastern Visayas at dito rin po sa may western portion ng Central Luzon. Kaya't bawal po maglayag ang ating mga kababayan, posibleng umabot sa 11 meters ang mga pag-alon dyan sa mga nabanggit na lugar, kaya't delikado po ito sa ating mga manlalayag. At yun lamang po ang latest galing dito sa Pag-asa Weather Forecasting Center. Ito po si Lian Loreto.
Lian, ang question ko lang is, anong oras natin mararamdaman ang peak nitong bagyo sa NCR today?
Sa ating pong nakikita ay posible ngayong hapon between 4 to 8 p.m. ang mas malapit po itong si severe tropical storm
Lian,
sa
yung 4
dito
to
sa
8
Metro
p.m.,
Manila.
yung 4 to 8 p.m. ang sinasabi mo, yan ang signal number 2?
Posible po magtaas ng signal number 2, ngunit yung sentro naman itong bagyo ay possible nasa Mindoro province by that time. So south of Metro Manila po ang mas babayuhin nitong si Opong.
Okay, any other weather systems that we are monitoring at the moment?
Sa ngayon, wala pa naman po tayong ibang masamang panahon na binabantayan. Ngunit mag-update lamang po tayo dito sa Pag-asa o sa mga possible changes or developments sa ating weather.
Alright, maraming salamat, Pag-asa Weather Specialist, Lian Loreto.
Alright, well, very extensive report. But yun, alam ng mga tao yung mangyayari 4 to 4:30 p.m. in Metro Manila, yung peak ng bagyo.
4 to 8.
4 to 8, sorry, 4 to 8 p.m. Yung peak ng bagyo if
Dito sa NCR.
yes, that's what I'm saying, Metro Manila. If may maintain sa signal number 2 or downgrade kasi nag-shift daw.
Right. And the palace has suspended classes at all levels as well as government office work in several areas today, September 26, due to severe tropical storm Opong. These areas include Metro Manila, Biliran, Eastern Samar, Northern Samar, Samar Masbate, Romblon, and Sorsogon. Classes are also suspended at all levels in Aklan, Albay, Antique, Batangas, Bataan, Camarines Norte, Camarines Sur, Capiz, Cavite, Catanduanes, Guimaras, Iloilo, Laguna, Leyte, Marinduque, Negros Occidental, Oriental Mindoro, Rizal, and Quezon. Meanwhile, several domestic flights have also been canceled due to Opong. These are now flashed on your screen.
Severe tropical storm Opong made its first landfall over San Policarpio, Eastern Samar. Let's check the situation in the province with Governor R.V. Evertone. Governor, thank you for joining us here on our program.
Hello po. Narinig niyo po ako,
Yes.
Sir Angelo and Ma'am Angela?
Loud and clear, Gov.
Yes po. Yes po.
Okay, Gov, I'd like to start
dumaan
off.
na po sa amin yung bagyo po dito sa Eastern Samar and well, I can give you siguro a brief comprehensive report, no? Kasi I just asked the situational briefer, consolidated from all of our MDRR MOs, no, sa buong province po natin. So far, we have 54,000 po affected individuals. Ano pong ibig sabihin nitong 54,000? Ito po ang mga nailikas po natin na nailagay natin sa mga evacuation centers for our preemptive evacuation, and ang mga individuals po na naapekto rin yung kanilang livelihood, yung kanilang panagat, ang kanilang pagsaka. Kaya affected po sila, part po sila ng ating affected individuals. Meron na rin po tayo, sir, actually 11 or 12 pala, 12 na missing individuals dito sa Eastern Samar. Pero luckily enough, just an hour ago, 7 po sa kanila na nahanap na po natin. At ngayon nasa hospital na po ng province para po ma-check natin kung meron po silang mga medical complications, kasi isa po doon ay 7-year-old na bata at ang isa po doon ay isang pong buntis na nanay. Kaya tinignan po namin, wala pa po akong update galing po sa ating mga doktor doon sa Provincial Hospital, sa Giwan. Pero binisita na po sila ng mayor natin, si Mayor Annalise Gonzales, para po matignan kung ano na talaga yung status po nila. Na-update naman po ako. So far, everyone naman is conscious. Wala naman po sa kanilang may severe na problema. But they are undertaking care from our healthcare professionals po.
Gov, I'd like to ask sa Eastern Samar, what is the most hard-hit areas in terms of yung communications, utilities, tsaka mga roads?
Sige po, sir. Actually, based on our report, wala pang naitala na major damages, which is, syempre na okay para sa amin. Although, in terms of roads, napakarami pong kalat. Kalat ng mga sanga, ng mga debris, ng mga kalat ng basura dahil po sa hagipit ng hangin. Tapos, sa kalsada naman po, isa lang po yung unpassable namin na road, and that is Taft going to Western Samar. Ano kasi po doon, na landslide prone and the rock slide prone area. So in advance po namin na sinara po ng DPWH para for the safety po of our travelers. Although, if I am not mistaken, they have just released that it is now passable na po yung kalsada natin. Kasi nagkaroon tayo ng minor na landslide po. Pero hindi naman po siya major landslide. Madali lang po nating na iusod ang bumagsak po na lupa.
Okay. Governor, kanina nabanggit niyo po there are 54,000 families that are affected right now because of this typhoon. And probably they're all in evacuation center. I was wondering, out of 54,000 families po, lahat po ba sila ito ay nakatira sa mga danger zone? Ilan po sa kanila ang hindi? And I was wondering kung ang inyo pong government is recommending po of recommendation po ng pagre-relocate sa ating mga kababayan para po hindi na po sila mag-evacuate every time may ganitong typhoon?
Yes po, ma'am. Actually, matagal na po namin na sasabi po sa kanila na mas maganda po na maiwas tayo dyan sa mga coastline areas po para hindi natin kinakailangan na lagi tayo nag-evacuate. Although, syempre po, dahil siguro sa mahirap rin na kalagayan ng kanilang pamumuhay, na nahihirapan din silang lumipat po sa ibang lugar. Although we always recommend them to move, especially one of our towns, ang municipality of Hipapat, because that is the most flood-prone town po natin. And every individual in the main municipality po, lahat po dyan binabaha talaga. But we always tell them, educate the people that it is better to relocate. Tinutulungan naman po namin.
Meron po ba silang relocation sites?
Siguro may sentimental value yung houses nila, homes nila. So parang mahirap rin po silang pilitin for that. And regarding naman po dito sa 54,000 individuals, some of them are in the coastal areas, some of them are in flood-prone areas. So yes po, nasa relatively danger zone po yung kanilang tinitirhan. Pero yung iba naman po, nag-evacuate lang rin dahil sa preemptive evacuation natin na pinalabas.
Gov, yung karamihan ba sa family members, I'd like to ask ko, ano yung status ng mga bahay nila? It's because when everything is said and done at mga nasiraan ng bahay, ano po ang mangyayari sa kanila? Will you provide a temporary shelter for them?
Yes po. Meron tayong mga assistances from the provincial government and the national government. Actually, ready na po tumulong ang mga national government agencies na kapag contact na po sa akin, that we have readily available relief goods, items for shelter para po maibigay sa mga nasiraan ng mga bahay sa bagyo. Pero so far, ngayon wala po pang reported na mga nasirang bahay or nasira po na mga lugar or major damages po dito sa aming probinsya po. Actually, to tell you the truth po, I think the typhoon, maybe because of its fast winds, it only passed us for around 2 to 3 hours. Talaga yung rainfall na matindi and hangin na matindi. I think it veered to the north.
That's right,
no?
yeah.
Parang yung natamaan po ang northern Samar talaga na matindi. Kaya doon po kami nagdadasal na sana yung mga kababayan po namin sa northern Samar is okay po sana sila.
Gov, tanong ko na rin din po, kamusta po yung mga flood control projects dyan po sa inyong lugar? Meron po ba tayong problema? Kasi yan po yung mainit na usapin ngayon, at hindi pa po masyado napupuntahan lahat yung may mga problema tungkol sa flood control nila. Baka ma-update niyo po kami.
Yes po. Ma'am Angela, actually, I have reported these projects actually to the President when we were invited in Malacanang, yung mga governors po. Kasi actually, meron po ditong mga mahirap pong magsabi coming from the provincial government po, no? Kasi the implementing agency is DPWH. Pero meron kami ditong, for us, our ghost projects. Kasi, ang nakita namin, based sa kanilang date ng pagtrabaho, dapat completed na sila by this year, by last year. Pero ang iba ngayon pa lang nagsisimula yung pagtrabaho. Meaning to say, these are ghost projects, di ba po? Although we have informed the national government already, ang DPWH, nakapagbigay na rin tayo ng reports. So hopefully mabisita po tayo nila. At some point, I think Secretary Vince Dizon mentioned it in one of his hearings in the Senate regarding yung flood control controversy that Eastern Samar meron na pong report. So naibigay na po natin ng reports sa kanila. If I'm not mistaken, I think there are 6.
How many? Ayan,
6
6
areas dito na na
Nabisita niyo na po ba yun, Gov?
ghost project. Yes po.
Nabisita niyo na po ba yun, Gov? Yung 6 ghost project?
Sorry
Flood
po,
control.
nag-cut po yung una niyo pong sinabi.
Nabisita niyo na po ba yung 6 na flood control projects na sa tingin po ninyo ay ghost?
Yes po. Actually, 8 po kasi yung flood control projects. Based lang po na nakita namin sa DPWH website. Diretsong pinapunta ko po yung ating engineering team. Pati rin ako personally, napuntahan ko po yung, yung mga flood control projects na to. No? Mayroon talagang problema kasi halatang walang nagtatrabaho eh.
So,
Yung iba nagsimula lang after mag-pop up yung balita.
Yes,
Kaya,
yes.
it is a very problematic thing, lalo na sa amin na may areas that are flood prone, na may ganitong klaseng kalokohan dito sa aming probinsya.
Yeah,
Talaga
Gov,
nakakabahala po siya, Mama Angela.
I'd like to touch up on that a little kasi we've spoken to several LGUs. Ang naging problema daw nila sa DPWH, nag-FYI lang, hindi daw humihingi ng proper documentation or proper approval to conduct yung scope of work. Sa area ng concern nyo po, ganun po ba ang problema sa DPWH din?
Actually, yes po. I think that will be common in almost all LGUs because the DPWH is a national government agency, no? Karamihan po kasi ng national government agencies, they just inform the LGUs that they will be conducting their programs, their projects pagdating po sa LGU level. Most of the time, wala na pong say yung LGU po, no? Pero meron ring mga pagkakataon in other agencies such as DSWD, DOLE, sa mga binibigay po nila sa amin ng mga ayuda or kanilang mga programa na i-inform po kami beforehand. But when it comes to DPWH, based on my experience, no, currently as a governor and previously as a board member, wala po talagang
Proper coordination.
pakikipag-ugnayan po, no, sa LGU. Talagang nagsasarili lang po talaga sila. And I think you'll find that common, no, with most LGUs na ganyan po yung talagang problema na
Which is
hinaharap
dapat
namin.
maayos nila. Pero
Go.
I wanna know lang kasi nabanggit mo kanina na flood control project siya na naiwan na dapat naigawa na pero ngayon parang ngayon pa lang sila nagsisimula. You mean to say, Gov, as we speak, nung kailan nyo po nalaman na gumagawa sila ulit? Meron po bang mga tao doon ulit ngayon na ginagawa yung projects na yun?
Okay po, ma'am. Sige. So, ganito po yung timeline. No, around August, we discovered that there were, actually before August, meron kaming idea of a project. Although since it is DPWH, it was out of the scope of the LGUs.
Right.
No? So, around August, no, parang bumulusok na talaga yung problem ng flood control. A lot of individuals, our netizens po, as they say, naglabas po sa social media na ganito ganyan, merong mga flood control dito, flood control dyan. So ako, right after that, binisita po natin, nag-research kami sa DPWH website, lahat ng flood control projects, actually pati doon to sa sumbong sa Pangulo, makikita po dyan lahat. Tapos, ang nakita po namin, meron kasi dyan completed percentage.
Yes.
Doon sa isang project, nakalagay doon 80% complete na siya. Pag bisita namin, nagtanong kami doon sa mga trabahante, kasi simula pa lang nila magtrabaho, the day na dumating po kami. So, medyo concerning, di ba?
Yeah.
Ang start ng project was 2024 and it was supposed to be finished in January. This is a project in Hernani, Eastern Samar, in Barangay Garawon. And there is another project in Soong, Llorente, also Barangay Soong in Llorente, na same lang rin yung period po ng pagtatrabaho nila. Pero the problem is, yun nga, nung pumutok lang sa social media, doon lang nagtrabaho
Tsaka
yung
lang nagtrabaho.
mga contractors. And actually, I'm getting more info from this, but based on our initial reports, the companies or the construction companies
Yun, I was gonna ask
that have the projects here are Discaya companies, no? So yung, I think it's YPR. I think that's under their branch of companies po na nahawakan po nila. So talagang very alarming po ito na umabot po dito sa Eastern Samar yung mga ganitong flood control
Ngayon
project.
sila nagkukumahog. Pakidagdagan na lang po, dalawa pa lang po yung nabanggit nyo na allegedly flood control
Yes po,
projects.
meron pa po sa Taft, meron rin po sa Dolores. I have the data here
Sige
on my
nga
phone.
po.
If we have the time, I can look it up. Kasi
Sige
I don't
po,
have it on
pasend
the
na
top
lang
of my
po
head
sa
right
amin.
now. No, kasi yung focus ko po ngayon is actually yung bagyo po.
Yes po, opo.
But meron po sa Barangay Garawon, Batang to Garawon, Hernani, Barangay Hinolaso Dolores, Barangay Malinaw Taft, Barangay San Pablo Taft, Barangay Siha, Borongan City, Barangay Soong Llorente, and Barangay Gamot Oras. Although, not all of these are ghost projects. Based on the reports, meron naman po ditong mga natrabaho na mga flood control projects. Kaya hindi rin namin ma-determine naman in terms of how it was done, kung standard ba siya or substandard, because we don't have the detailed
The details
engineering
nito.
design po, yung DEB, kasi DPWH po yung nakahawak dyan. So, yun lang po yung problem namin. Our report is, it couldn't be completed. We only have here initial reports of what we can see with our eyes. But if we compare it to the main design, hindi po namin makuha
That's
yan
true.
kasi it's under DPWH.
Okay. Alright, Gov, it's good that you mentioned that to us kasi syempre I was wondering kung yung 54 individuals that you mentioned ay yung mga ilan doon ay nakatira doon sa mga barangay kung saan may flood control projects kasi importanteng malaman po
Wala
natin
naman
yan.
po.
Wala
Wala
naman.
naman po doon.
Alright, sige, patuloy po kami makikipag-ugnayan sa inyo. Mag-iingat po kayo. Maraming salamat po sa inyong oras, Eastern Samar Governor RV Evardone.
Po, Ma'am Angela, and thank you po, Sir Angelo. Thank you po.
Now at this point, let's talk to Gramil Alexis Nas, Public Information Officer and Chief of Capacity Building and Training at OCD Region 5 following severe tropical storm Opong's second landfall in Palanas, Masbate. Magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Hello po ma'am, hello po sir, magandang umaga po sa inyo.
Opo. Sir, kamusta na po ang panahon dyan? Hingi po kami ng update sa inyo.
Sa ngayon po ma'am, dito po sa station namin medyo cloudy skies pa po dito sa Legazpi City, Albay, pero hindi na po umuulan unlike last night and this early morning po.
Alright, may mga reports po ba ng affected individuals or infrastructure na kailangan tuunan po ng pansin?
Sa ngayon po, wala pa po kaming official reports na nare-receive regarding damage to infrastructure and damage to houses since ongoing pa po in clearing and assessment ng PDRO Masbate and ng mga LGUs po sa probinsyang iyon. But for the evacuees po, sir, total po namin through the DSWD Field Office 5, nasa 24,579 families po ang nag-evacuate due to Opong.
And itong mga nag-evacuate po, nanggagaling po ba to sa mga danger zones? Kamusta na po ang lagay ng bahay nila? I'm asking this is because after all of this, kung medyong sira ang bahay, ano po ang plano dyan ng local government in terms of temporary housing?
Yes po, sir. Based naman po sa experience po namin, sir, dito, hindi po muna sila pinapauwi if medyo hindi pa po safe pauwi sa kanilang mga kabahayan and may threat pa po, for example, ng landslide or even flooding.
Okay.
And kapag sa experience din po namin ng mga nakaraang bagyo, ay pinapatira po muna sila sa temporary shelters like sa evacuation centers kung na-damage man po yung bahay nila at agad din pong binibigyan ng financial and housing assistance naman po ng LGU and ng ating mga kasamahan mula po sa DSWD.
Okay. Sir, based po sa aming mga report, malakas po ang hangin daw dyan sa Masbate. I was wondering kung meron pong mga structure na nasira dyan and mga kalsada na kailangan po ng mga clearing operations.
Na initial na information po, ma'am, pero wala pa kasi siyang official situation report from the province. Tinawag po sa amin ng provincial DRM officer na may mga damages po talaga sa power lines, sa mga natumbang puno, and even may mga damaged houses din and damaged government infrastructure. Sa ngayon po ay nagsasagawa pa po sila ng assessment and clearing and hopefully later this afternoon ay may makuha po kami kahit initial report po from them.
Kamusta po yung line of communication line po natin dyan, yung kuryente, may problema po ba?
Sa ibang parts po ng Masbate, lalo na po sa dinaanan, ang information po ay walang kuryente. And doon naman po sa communication lines, may ibang parts po na merong signal ng telepono. And yung mga wala naman pong signal sa internet, kasi affected din po ng ating mga lines sa mga posts na natumba, ay lahat naman po ng LGUs as far as we're concerned ay meron pong mga Starlink na binigay ang provincial DRM offices kaya nakakapagbigay pa rin po sila ng information via internet sa province papunta po sa amin.
Sir Gramil, meron po ba tayong reported casualties o mga nawawala po, nasugatan?
Ngayon po, ma'am, wala pong officially reported po sa Region 5 po sa amin dito sa casualties po.
Alright, patuloy po kaming makikipag-ugnayan sa inyo. For the meantime, mag-ingat po kayo dyan. Gramil Alexis Nas, ang Public Information Officer and Chief of Capacity Building and Training at OCD Region 5. Thank you so much.
Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon slams Davao Occidental engineers over a supposed ghost multi-million peso flood control project. Here's the report.
Hindi ka na naawa dun sa mga estudyante dyan, saka yung mga tao dito. Hindi mo ba siya iniisip? Bakit ka nagbayad ng hindi complete?
A district engineer from Jose Abad Santos, Davao Occidental received a tongue lashing from Public Works Secretary Vince Dizon. This after another delayed flood control project was discovered by the DPWH together with the Independent Commission for Infrastructure. The project in question is located at the Kulaman Bridge. It was supposed to be completed back in 2022, but work on the project only began last month. What angered Dizon even more, documents claimed that the project was already completed.
According to the documents we got from the Davao Occidental District Engineering Office and also confirmed by RD Judy, who is here, this project was completed, kunyari, noong 2022.
The project was already fully paid with a contract cost of 96.5 million pesos. The contractors, St. Timothy Construction Company, owned by the controversial Diskaya family.
Galit na galit ako kanina eh. Sino ba naman ang hindi magagalit? 100 million pesos. Sino man ang pumirma dun sa mga papeles na yon na nag-authorize ng payment? Kulong lahat yun.
Local residents also confirmed that work on the project had only just started. The DPWH secretary said the agency will issue a show cause order and suspension order against the entire engineering office of Davao Occidental. He also issued a warning to all DPWH employees.
I'm telling all the people in DPWH now, in all districts, kung merong ganito sa inyo, huwag nyo nang hintayin, pumunta pa ako dyan. Magkusa na kayo.
The ICI is urging a formal inquiry into the Commission on Audit's role in the project delay. In the meantime, the project has been suspended pending the outcome of the investigation. Mobile journalist Mary Monreyes, we are One News.
Di ba you saw yung...
Stress na si
Oo, nakita mo yung video
Secretary.
ni Sec Dizon. He used to be, we all know him as a prim and proper guy, dating from the pandemic, yung pinatakbo niya yung mga evacuations, yung containment centers. Pero right now, mula nung before and after pictures, madami na siyang bad words na sinasabi sa stress niya.
Stress na
Where you
siya,
could see
oo.
na he's already at his boiling point.
Yeah. And these are just several locations pa lang na nabibisita niya.
Kaya Sec Dizon, punta kayo sa Eastern Samar.
Yes.
Kasapon niya si Gov. Everdone. May project daw, kakasimula pa lang.
Sinisimulan
Pero
bigla,
2024,
Nagpupumahog,
completion date 80%. Pero ngayon lang
Paano
nag-start.
matutuyo yung semento
Ayan
doon?
na.
Nag-uulan.
I-video nyo, Sec, para makita natin gaano kagalit ka ulit. Ay, nako.
Now, we'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. Good morning. You're still watching News and Views here on One News. A series of bombshell revelations rocked the Senate Blue Ribbon hearing on flood control projects yesterday, exposed by resigned DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo. Here's the report.
Ako po ay umaamin sa aking maling nagawa. Nakagawa po ako ng pagkakamali at pinahintulutan ko po ang aking sarili na maging kasangkapan sa pagpapatupad ng isang masamang gawain. Handa po akong gawin ang lahat ng nararapat upang maiwasto ang aking kamalian.
That's what resigned Public Works Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo said before making his revelations at the Senate Blue Ribbon Committee hearing on Thursday. It was Bernardo's first time attending the hearing. Bernardo tagged Ako Bicol Representative Zaldico, who allegedly demanded a 25% commission per project. 2% of that cut, he claims, went to himself and former Bulacan District Engineer Henry Alcantara.
Engineer Alcantara would tell me every time that he made deliveries of cash to Congressman Zaldico in compliance with his commitment to Congressman Zaldico.
Senator Cheese Escudero was also linked through his close friend and campaign contributor, Maynard Ngu. Bernardo claims he personally handed over 160 million pesos to Ngu, allegedly meant for Escudero.
The delivery of the 160 million for Senator Cheese referred to in paragraph 17 of my affidavit happened sometime in the first quarter of 2025.
Bernardo claims Revilla asked for a 25% cut from multiple projects amounting to 125 million pesos delivered in cash to his Cavite home. Former Senator and now Makati Mayor Nancy Binay was also named, with her staffer Carlene Villa allegedly asking for 15%. Bernardo alleges that 37 million pesos was delivered to Binay's residence in Quezon City. And in another explosive claim, a total of 427 million pesos in kickbacks were supposedly requested for the office of the Executive Secretary through DepEd Yusek Trive Olaivar. But another witness dropped even more bombshells. Orly Guteza, a former security consultant to Zaldico, testified that he personally handled dozens of suitcases, each containing up to 48 million pesos in cash. He claims 46 suitcases amounting to over 2.2 billion pesos were delivered to Cos House in Pasig. Guteza also pointed to former House Speaker Martin Romualdez saying 35 suitcases went to McKinley residence in Taguig. Other deliveries, he said, were made to Forbes Park, Malacanang Aguado's residence, and even to businessman Michael Yang's former property.
Ang bawat malita ay may lamang humigit kumulang 48 million pesos.
But those names have begun to push back. Escudero denied the allegations and described them as a well-orchestrated plan to attack the Senate and divert public attention from the real culprits. Binay also dismissed the claims and said she was surprised to be linked to DPWH anomalies. She stressed that her record in public service has always been above board. Benguet Representative Eric Yap was accused by Gutesa of delivering cash to Ko, also denied the claim. Meanwhile, Bersamin denied any involvement in DPWH budget allocations or dealings with Bernardo. Romualdez also branded the claim as a complete fabrication. He dismissed Gutesa's testimony as political and coached, and noted that the witness was presented by Senator Rodante Marcoleta, a known Duterte ally. Following the hearing, the National Bureau of Investigation has recommended the filing of malversation charges against Escudero, Binay, and Romualdez over alleged kickbacks in public work projects.
Justice Secretary Boying Rimulya says they are tracking the whereabouts of Representative Zaldi Ko. Ko has been tied to billions of alleged kickbacks from flood control projects. Recently, an alleged boarding pass and flight details circulated on social media showing that the lawmaker flew from Dubai to Madrid on September 24. Ko had previously left the country for the United States for a supposed medical treatment. He is now listed on the immigration watch list.
Well, there's a boarding pass ba yun? Or there were flight details sent to us, but we have to validate. We're trying to track him and maraming tumutulong na tao.
Executive Secretary Lucas Bersamin denied allegations by former DPWH Undersecretary Roberto Bernardo that a DepEd official demanded a 15% commission from 2.85 billion pesos worth of infrastructure projects for the Office of the Executive Secretary. Bersamin called the claims not true and said the OES has no involvement with DPWH budget allocations. He also stressed that the office has had no dealings with Bernardo or DepEd Undersecretary Trigib Olayvar, who has also denied the allegations. Bersamin said he stands by his untarnished record as a long-serving public servant amid the ongoing Senate investigation into flood control projects. Now at this point, let's get updates on the ground. We have mobile journalist Merimon Reyes live from Manila. Merimon, kamusta na dyan sa Manila? Merimon, audio. Yan.
Okay, Angelo, good morning. Nanggaling tayo sa San Miguel, Bulacan at doon mula sa NLEX, sobrang lakas na talaga ng buhos ng ulan. Nagkaroon pa nga sa biyahe natin na halos naging zero visibility. Kasabay din yan na obserbahan natin na along NLEX, lahat ng mga billboards doon nakatiklop na yung kanilang mga signages, yung mga tarapan na nakalagay din doon. And along Manila so far sa mga nilibot natin, along U-Belt, along Taft Avenue, maging sa monitoring din ng Manila DRMO, so far wala pang pagbaha dito sa Maynila. Pero yun nga, sa latest update din kasi ng DOST Pag-asa, nananatiling nasa signal number 2 ang Metro Manila, maging ang Calabarzon at damay din dyan nga ang Central Luzon. Kaya doon sa Bulacan, naramdaman na natin yung buhos ng ulan. Pero so far, wala pa nga tayong nararamdaman o nakikita na pag-ipon ng tubig baha. Kani-kanina lang din, naglabas na rin ang Manila LGU ng listahan ng possible evacuation centers just in case daw na magkaroon ng aberya o magkaroon ng biglaang pagtaas ng tubig baha. Dito, nasa may Sampaloc tayo, Bustillos, normal pa naman. Pero ang sinasabi ng mga lokal dito, basta raw tuloy-tuloy ang buhos ng ulan na malakas, mabilis daw na maiipon ang tubig baha. So for example, ang Delpan Sports Complex, ang Barangay 2 o Multipurpose Hall, ang Felipe Calderon Integrated School, Melchor Aquino Elementary School, Vicente Lim Elementary School, Antonio Villegas Elementary School, ang Francisco Balagtas Elementary School, Legarda Elementary School, ang Rafael Palma Elementary School, ang Don Bosco School, maging ang Hermenegildo Atienza Elementary School across 6 districts ng Maynila, meron ng mga naka-ready na evacuation centers. Balik sa inyo.
Merimon, as expected naman kasi mabaha dyan sa area na yan, no? Pero sa pag-iikot mo, given it's also typhoon signal number 2 supposedly by 4 p.m. if the bagyo maintains its current track, nagpre-prepare na rin ba ang Manila for the eventuality na malakas ang hangin, like taking down billboards, tying up mga posts and trees?
Oo, Angelo, nung naglibot tayo sa paligid ng Taft Avenue, doon sa may Paquiapo, maging dito sa may Recto Avenue, nakita natin na yung public works net o public services na department ng Maynila, pare-pareho silang naghahakot and tuloy-tuloy din yung paghihigop sa mga estero o sa kanal nitong Maynila, nitong mga kanilang mga staff. And so far, sa pag-aanunsyo din nila Manila Mayor Isko Moreno, simula daw kayo na umaga hanggang sa mga susunod pang oras, mananatili rin daw silang rumoronda just in case nga na magkakaroon ng eberya. Especially, tulad last time doon sa Quiapo, merong isang palengke na nalubog sa tubig baha. So ngayon ang ginagawa nila, tulad nung last coverage natin ng bagyo, hinihigop na rin nila hanggat maaari yung sa mga estero o kaya naman sa mga kanal na posibleng mabara. Angelo.
Siguro tanong ko na lang din kasi nabanggit mo kanina so far dyan sa area mo sa Manila, wala pa naman mga pagtaas ng tubig na naitatala. Pero nakapaglibot ka na ba sa iba pang parts ng Manila kung saan talagang laging binabahan o pag may mga malalakas sa pag-ulan?
Angela, dumaan tayo sa Taft Avenue kanina, pati sa Lagos nila, kung saan especially for Taft Avenue, konting ulan lang din naobserbahan na lalong-lalo na ng mga motorista at commuter, yung hirap ng pagbiyahe dahil naiipunan na talaga doon ng tubig baha. Pero so far, wala pa, ni gutter deep, wala pang tubig baha. Small puddles here and there, meron na. And isa rin sa nakita natin, may mga ilang mga basurang naiipon pa. Pero since nakita nga natin yung Public Services Department naman ng Maynila na naglilibot, baka hahakutin na rin naman nila ang mga iyon. For Lagos nila, especially doon din naman sa underpass, papunta rin ng Quiapo, doon din sa papunta naman Calentong, Magallanes Boulevard, ang mga nalibot natin. So far, normal pa ang daloy din ng trapiko, madadaanan pa, passable pa ang mga ito. Wala pa namang sinasarang mga kalsada o ruta na posibleng maapektuhan nga bunsod nitong pag-iipon ng tubig baha.
Ako last on my end regarding the bagyo and preparation. May nakikita ka na bang rumoronda, Merimon, na mga assistance vehicles? Kasi sabi nila magde-deploy daw sila eh.
So far sa mga nadaanan natin, wala pa. Pero usually, kapag naging malala na talaga, itong sitwasyon, lalo-lalo na pa, nandito ngayon si Bagyong Opong, yung ilan sa aasahan nating roronda, especially sa Espanya Boulevard, ngayon normal pa naman doon, wala pang pagbaha, is merong mga iikot na mga truck, police vehicle, maging kapag kunwari nagkaroon na ng tubig baha talaga, yung mga speedboat, mga makeshift bangka, yun yung ilan sa nasabi rin na sa atin ng mga barangay officials na nadaanan natin na ready naman na raw ilabas kung sakaling kakailanganin mag-rescue ng mga tao. Bukod din dyan, tulad last time, itong mayroon ding mga dineploy na mga bus para magkaroon ng libreng sakay from northbound doon sa kahabaan ng Espanya, papuntang Commonwealth, southbound, papunta rin doon sa Quiapo. So yan yung ilan sa mga inaantabayanan natin ngayong araw.
Naku, ito si Merimon, kung hindi nasa kalsada, nasa Senado to eh. So, syempre, tanungin ko na lang din sa'yo, Merimon, yung nangyari kahapon sa Senate. Kasi pinag-uusapan ngayon yung pa-surprise na witness ni Senator Marcoleta. Na itong
Master Sergeant.
Oo, si Gutesa, if I'm not mistaken. Sinasabi nga sa Senate Blue Ribbon Committee, through its chairman, Senator Ping Lacson, na surprise sila. At wala man daw pasintabi, hindi sinabi sa kanila na meron palang witness na ganito.
Oo, Angela. And nung parang natanong din siya kung yung tungkol doon sa kung magpa-apply din pa siya para mapasa ilalim sa Witness Protection Program, ang sabi niya, itong si Orly, hindi niya naman na raw kailangan kasi kaya niya naman daw depensahan yung sarili niya. Nakalagay din doon sa sworn statement ni Orly, nagagalit na raw siya sa mga lumalabas sa pagdilim ng Blue Ribbon, hindi na raw siya natutuwa rin sa mga nagiging revelasyon, at iniisip niya rin daw yung kapakanan ng kanyang pamilya na posibleng madawit na masangkot dito, kaya pinili niya na rin daw na magsalita. And bukod doon, yun nga, na-reveal nga na meron silang tinatawag na basura at siya plus more or less 90 na iba pang security personnel mula raw sa pulisya, ang nakakasama niyang may rotation na nagpapadala nitong basura o mali-maletang naglalaman ng around 48 million pesos kada delivery. So dalawa yung nabanggit niya kay Ako Bicol Party's Representative Zaldico. Sa isang pagkakataon, yung 46 daw na basura, 11 dito kay Zaldico, dadalhin daw nila doon sa Pasig. 35 mapupunta naman dito kay House Speaker Martin Romualdez. So nung tinototal natin at sa nasabi pa, sa isang linggo, around 3 times daw nagpapadala nitong basura. So sa isang araw, 12 to 13, sa isang araw, 15 na mga maleta. At nung tinry natin computein, around that, parang papatak siya ng 2 billion pesos. And kasabay nito, meron pa siyang nakasamang dalawang driver din naman ng Bulacan na First Deo. Ito sila Christian Santiago, sila Balatbat. At sinabi rin nila, sila mismo rin ay nagpapadala nitong mga kickback supposedly, pero hindi rin daw nila natutukoy talaga kung para
Okay,
kanino
alright.
yung mga perang kanilang dinadala.
Sige, Mary Mon, dahil wala na tayong oras, two things. Number one, ano yung sagot ng kampo nila Senator Marcoleta doon sa sinasabi na hindi naman daw sila yung nagpanotaryo doon sa statement ni Gutesa. No? Sabi nila hindi daw sila yung nagnotaryo noon pero yun yung pangalan nila yung nakatatak. Anong pangalan ng notary law office na yon? And number two, maiimbitahan ba itong si Maynard Ngo ang ilan sa mga personalidad o pangalan na nabanggit, no? Maraming beses nabanggit sa Senate hearing kahapon?
Angela, nung pagkatapos ng pagdinig, sinubukan nating makapanayam ito si Senator Marcoleta tungkol nga sa ibang mga detalye kasama na yan. Pero hindi nagpa-unlock ng interview itong si Senator Marcoleta. So inaasahan natin na possibly sa mga susunod na araw ay magbibigay na rin ng impormasyon o ng update itong senador tungkol dyan. Doon naman, ang sabi naman sa pangalawang tanong mo, Angela, ang sabi dyan ni na Senator Kiko Pangilinan, magkakaroon ng focus itong mga senador sa Lunes para pag-usapan kung sino pa raw yung ilang mga iimbitahan pa. So yung nasabi last time ni na Senator Ping, na Senate President Tito Soto na last 1 to 2 hearings sila ng Blue Ribbon, mukhang magpapatuloy pa nga talaga ito dahil meron pa silang mga ilang kailangan para sagutin, especially din doon sa case ni Commissioner Lipana, netong iba pa, and even tinitingnan daw nila yung posibilidad ng pag-iimbita kay Representative Saldico kung nasaan man siya manggagaling.
All right, thank you. That was mobile journalist Mary Mon Reyes for that report, and stay safe. Yung lawyer na sinasabi mo, Angel, si Attorney Petchi Rose
Yun.
Espera.
Yun.
Sabi niya, she wrote another news network, another news organization saying na i-take down daw yung display na notarized.
Because hindi daw galing sa opisina nila.
That's not from her. No, sabi niya, directly not her signature. Baka kasi pwedeng assistant
Galing
niya.
sa opisina nila, pero
But
hindi
we're not sure
siya.
yet.
Okay,
All right. Don't go away because we're not done yet. Stay with us. Welcome back. You're still watching News and Views here on One News.
The Bangko Sentral ng Pilipinas is moving to freeze additional bank accounts linked to the controversial flood control projects. So far, the BSP has frozen over 700 accounts with a total value exceeding 5 billion pesos. More details in Kathy Yang's exclusive report.
In an exclusive interview on One News, Bangko Sentral Governor Eli Remolona expressed a deep shock at the extent of the flood control corruption scandal.
It was worse than we thought, but I think it will get better. This flood control scandal was as much of a shock to us as it was to you. But we're working hard to fix things.
What in particular shocked you most?
The scale of it, the amounts involved, we had no idea. We had no idea. I mean, you and I, we knew there was corruption all along, right? But not on this scale. Not on this scale.
And not on the scale that 1 billion pesos could be stuffed into luggages and brought to homes inside cars.
Yeah, and the sight of piles of cash on a table, that's kind of shocking, no? That I didn't know this was all done in cash and in such amounts. So that is shocking.
The BSP has since issued a circular last September 19, limiting the value of large cash transactions per day to 500,000 pesos, or its equivalent.
We want it to make it more difficult for the contractors, for the guys involved in this flood control mess, to be able to take money out of the banks. We just realized that all these transactions are done in cash.
It's a move that has angered netizens and the public alike, calling it a hassle, especially for businesses and individuals with legitimate needs amounting to 500,000 pesos per day.
Alam namin yun. Kaya pwedeng kausapin yung bangko, sabihin mo kung bakit mo kailangan yung cash, and then the bank can allow cash. If you justify the use of cash, you should be able to get cash.
Could you give us justifications that would pass the mental?
Well, we understand that there are businesses that are really cash-based, and I think banks also know that. So the businessman can come to a bank and say, "I need cash more than 500,000 pesos, and this is why I need the cash, and the bank will understand that.
Remolona confirms the BSP has begun its inquiries with banks to find out how big sums ended up in the wrong hands. As it's been done in cash, might there be maybe an inquiry into how the financial system or maybe even banks had maybe had something to do about how the cash was sourced? I mean, what kind of inquiries are you now making within the financial system?
We're making a lot of inquiries. We're finding out all the big. We're trying to identify the big flows of cash throughout the financial systems, the unusually large flows of cash, but not just cash. Any financial transaction that looks unusual, we're trying to analyze.
And what have you found so far? Is it coming more from the government financial institutions, more private, or a combination of both?
I think more from the government financial institutions. And that makes sense because it's government money, so it would go through the government financial institutions. So that's what you've seen so far.
While Remolona expects the BSP to freeze more assets in question, he assures the public the financial system is secure.
So we've frozen over 700 accounts so far. We're looking at more accounts to freeze. So that does affect liquidity in general. But our banks are very, very liquid at this point. I think I can say that with confidence. No bank runs.
The Monetary Board is due to decide on policy next on October 9. Until then, Remolona and the board will have to keep a close eye on how the investigation pans out. Kathy Yang, We Are One News.
Filipina tennis ace Alex Ayala defeated Japan's Mei Yamaguchi to advance to the quarterfinals of the Jingshan Open. The 20-year-old dominated the round of 16, winning 6-0, 6-3 in just 1 hour and 12 minutes. Ayala started strong, breaking Yamaguchi's serve 3 times to take the first set and held her lead despite a brief challenge in the second set to secure a straight set victory. Up next for Ayala is China's Lu Jiangjing as she looks to extend her run toward a second WTA Challenger title.
Rookie center Colin Sakoe powered UST to a long-awaited victory over defending champions UP in the UAAP Season 88 opening weekend. Let's get to know him in mobile journalist Denise Valdez-Sancho's report.
6 years in the making. It was in Season 82 when the UST Growling Tigers last tasted victory against UP, but the new kid in town says not today. 6'10" Nigerian center Collins Akowe blasted a monster double-double debut in UST's first win over defending champions UP in years.
Whatever it takes, I need to win my first game in the UAP. I'm not going to start my career with a loss.
A decorated player from the National University, the former Bullpups captured the Season 86 Most Valuable Player and Best Foreign Student Athlete Award in Season 87. Soccer may have defined his early years, but the 19-year-old rookie knew it was time to shift.
I want to give this a try. Can this basketball take me places that I've never been before? I knew one day it would take me out of the country. That was all I had in mind. I want to leave Nigeria and, go somewhere.
Beyond numbers, the young gun kept his eyes on growth.
I was down, to be honest. I didn't really care about the 29 point. What I cared about was the free throw.
But with his breakout debut behind him, Akowe is locked in on what's next. Head on and ready, he looks to carry the Growling Tigers against LaSalle this Saturday, with his ultimate goal to lead UST back to glory.
You gotta finish it, man. You gotta finish the job, man. And the job is to get a championship, so.
Mobile journalist Denise Valdez-Sancho. We are One News.
Laking bata, 6'9", 6'10", 19-year-old Akowe, UST. Dating NU, no high school. Kaka-19 lang niya halos.
Wow, promising.
6'10", promising. Si Akowe.
Thank you tayo kay...
Hindi ba mo sa Ako?
Oo.
Go.
Thank you tayo kay, Marjorie Tan ng Buddha's Valley. Yan. Kahit may bagyo ay binibigyan pa rin tayo ng ating least for today.
Alright,
Pero ano tayo of course sa Bicol region meron po tayong naitalang 4 na namatay na, no? Nakakalungkot po, but ingat po ating mga kababayan lalo na po dun sa mga affected areas nitong typhoon Opong.
Right, I'd like to leave everyone with a quote. When the mind is calm, how quickly, how smoothly, how beautifully you will perceive everything. And that wraps up today's episode of News and Views.
Join us again on Monday. I'm Angela Lagunzad Castro.
I'm Angelo Castro III. We are One News.
All sides, all the time.